The Tale of the Bell Cast at Atago Temple. Once upon a time, there was a man named Ono no Takamura who built Atago Temple. To supply the temple, he commissioned a bell to be cast by a skilled bell maker. The bell maker said, "This bell will ring on its own at the 12 hours of the day, even without being struck by anyone. However, after it is cast, the bell must be buried in the ground for 3 years. Starting today, it should be unearthed the day after 3 full years have passed. If it is dug up even a day too early or too late, it will not ring on its own at the 12 hours of the day, as it is designed to do." With these words, the bellmaker left. However, before the full 3 years had passed, those responsible for the bell grew impatient and, unable to wait any longer, dug it up too soon. As a result, the bell did not ring on its own at the 12 hours and became just an ordinary bell. The people of that time lamented, saying, if they had waited for the proper day to unearth the bell as the bellmaker instructed, it would have rung on its own at the 12 hours. Wherever its sound could be heard, people would have known the exact time, and the bell would have been a marvel. The temple head made a grievous mistake. Thus, the story serves as a warning. Those who do not practice patience and mindfulness will always face unfortunate consequences. Foolishness and disbelief bring about such outcomes. Upon hearing this, people passed down the story, saying, "Never act in disbelief, no matter the circumstance." Thus, the story has been passed down. The Tale of the Abbot Who Destroyed the Rock Cliff of Reigan Temple. Once upon a time, there was a temple called Reigan-ji in the northern mountains. This temple was a place where the deity Myoken was believed to manifest. About 3 cho, roughly 300 meters in front of the temple, there was a rocky cliff with a small cave just large enough for people to crouch and pass through. Many pilgrims came to this sacred site, and the temple prospered, with numerous monks' quarters being built. At one point, Emperor Shrek suffered from an eye ailment, and there was discussion of a possible imperial visit to the Reigan Temple. However, the presence of the rocky cliff made it impossible for the emperor's palanquin to pass through, and it was decided that the visit could not take place. Hearing this, the temple's abbot thought to himself, "If the emperor visits, I will surely be promoted to a high clerical position. But if the visit is cancelled, I will miss that opportunity." Determined to make the visit happen, the abbot said, "I will destroy this cliff," and ordered many workers to cut down brush and pile it around the rock. Some of the elderly monks at the temple protested, saying, "The temple's spiritual power stems from this rocky cliff. If it is destroyed, the temple will lose its sacredness and fall into ruin." However, the abbot, fixated on his own ambitions, ignored their warnings. Without listening to a word of their pleas, he set fire to the brush piled around the cliff. Once the rock was heated, the abbot and his men used large iron hammers to smash it apart. As the rock shattered into pieces, the sound of 100 voices laughing in unison was heard from within the cliff. The temple monks, astonished and fearful, exclaimed, "What a dreadful omen! The temple will surely fall into ruin. This is the work of demons." They resented the abbot for his actions. Even though the cliff was destroyed, the emperor's visit never took place, and the abbot's hopes for promotion were dashed. In the end, he gained nothing and was left in disgrace. Afterward, the abbot became hated and shunned by the other monks, eventually leaving the temple. With no one left to care for it, Reigan Temple fell into disrepair. The buildings and monks' quarters were lost, and the site eventually became a mere pathway for woodcutters. Reflecting on this, it was clear that the abbot's actions were utterly senseless. Even if he had destroyed the rock to gain favor, it would have been pointless if he did not receive the promotion he sought. The abbot, lacking wisdom, destroyed the very foundation of the temple's spiritual power for his own selfish desires. Thus, people came to say spiritual power exists only in accordance with the place, and the story has been passed down. The Tale of the Demon's Island of Neya in Noto Province. Once upon a time, there was an island called Neya off the coast of Noto Province. The island was known for having an abundance of abalone, as plentiful as stones on a riverbank. The fishermen from a cove called Hikari no Shima, located in that province, would often sail to the Demon's Island of Neya to gather abalone and present it to the provincial governor. The journey from Hikari no Shima to Neya took an entire day and night by boat. Further beyond Neya, there was another island known as Cat Island. The journey from Neya to Cat Island also took a full day and night of sailing with a favorable wind. It was said to be as far as the distance from Japan to Korea. However, no one traveled to Cat Island due to skerstrak, making it a place unknown to humans. The fishermen of Hikari no Shima regularly made the journey to Neya and returned with abalone, offering thousands of them to the provincial governor. At times, groups of 40 to 50 people would travel together, which gives a sense of the vast quantity of abalone they gathered. During the final year of Fujiwara no Michimune's term as governor of Noto, he began to harshly demand the abalone that the fishermen of Hikari no Shima brought back from Neya. The fishermen, overwhelmed and distressed by his relentless demands, eventually fled to Echigo province. With the fishermen gone, there was no one left in Hikari no Shima to journey to Neya and gather the abalone, and the practice ceased. Thus, it is clear that excessive greed is a terrible thing. Michimune's overbearing demands for more and more abalone led to a situation where, in the end, not a single one could be obtained. Even now, the provincial governor does not receive any abalone, making the situation utterly unproductive. The people of the province blamed Fujiwara no Michimune for this, and thus the story has been passed down. The tale of the collapse of the governor's reservoir in Sanuki province. Once upon a time, in the province of Sanuki, in the district of Shashik, there was a large reservoir called Mono Pond. It was built by the great master of Koya, Kobodaishi, who out of compassion for the people of the province gathered workers to construct the pond. The reservoir's perimeter was vast and its embankment so high that one could mistake it for the sea rather than a pond. Its size was so great that it stretched far into the distance, barely visible. After its construction, the reservoir stood firm for a long time without collapsing. Even during times of drought, the farmers of the province relied on this reservoir to water their fields, and the people rejoiced greatly. Numerous rivers flowed into the pond, ensuring that it was always full of water. The reservoir was also home to an abundance of fish, both large and small. The people of the province would often catch fish from the pond, but the supply was so plentiful that it seemed inexhaustible. During this time, a man named Sak Skrek served as the provincial governor of Sanuki. One day, while he was conversing with the people of the province and his retainers, they spoke of the countless fish in Mano Pond, even mentioning carp as long as 3 feet. Hearing this, the governor became envious and desired the fish for himself. He thought, I must devise a way to catch the fish from this pond. Since the pond was too deep for people to place nets, the governor decided to dig a large hole in the embankment to drain the water. He set up traps where the water would flow out, and as the water gushed out through the hole, countless fish were swept out as well, allowing him to gather a great number in no time. However, even after the hole was filled in, the water continued to flow out with such force that it became impossible to completely seal the breach. Normally, water from the reservoir was managed using sluices to maintain its integrity, but the governor's reckless actions had compromised the embankment. Over time, the hole expanded, and when heavy rains fell, causing the rivers to swell and pour into the reservoir, the embankment could no longer hold, and it collapsed. As a result, the reservoir's water spilled out entirely, destroying the homes and fields of the people of the province. The fish were washed away and caught by people everywhere. Eventually, the remaining water in the reservoir dried up, and the once great Mano Pond disappeared without a trace. Reflecting on this, it was the greed of the governor that led to the destruction of the reservoir. He undoubtedly bore the full weight of the blame for this. The loss of the reservoir, which had been built with great care by a revered figure to aid the people, was an immeasurable sin. Furthermore, the governor was responsible for the destruction of many homes and fields, as well as the loss of the countless fish in the reservoir. Thus, the governor was remembered for his foolish and wasteful actions. Even to this day, the people of the province curse his name. Though the reservoir is gone, traces of the embankment and its remains still stand as a testament to what once was. Thus, the story has been passed down. the tale of the founding of Myōraku-ji Temple on Mount Tōbu. Once upon a time, there was a man named Sonrei Rishi, who resided on Mount Hiei. For many years, he dedicated himself to studying the teachings of both the exoteric and esoteric doctrines of Buddhism. He was also known as a great diviner. Later, he moved to the capital and took residence in Unrinin. During this time, when the young Komyo abbot of Mudoji Temple was still in his early years as an ascetic, Sonrei Rishi observed him and remarked, "You are truly a person with great potential. You will surely become a pillar of the Buddha's teachings in this mountain. Since I am aging and no longer of use in this world, I wish to pass my position in the monastic hierarchy to you, who is closely connected to the regent." Komyo Abbot was delighted to hear this and conveyed the message to the regent. The regent was also known as the Lord of the Hall. He held Komyo Abbot in high regard and, upon hearing Sonrei's message, expressed his approval, saying, "This is indeed a fortunate matter." Consequently, Komyo was promoted to Rishi due to Sonrei's renouncement. After this, Sonrei, filled with determination, left the main temple and secluded himself on Mount Tōbu, where he began to chant the Nembutsu, the name of Amitabha Buddha, focusing solely on the teachings for future generations. Although there were already memorials on Mount Tōbu, the teachings of the exoteric and esoteric schools were absent. Sonrei established the esoteric teachings of Shingon and taught the doctrines of Tendai, attracting numerous students. He organized the Hoko, lotus, ceremonies, and initiated the Sanko, 30 lectures, transforming the area into a stronghold of Buddhism. Sonrei thought to himself, even though this place has become a stronghold of Buddhism, it lacks a designated main temple. He resolved to establish it as a branch temple of his main temple. Since Komyo Abbot had a close relationship with the regent, Sonrei approached the regent to discuss this matter. The regent, upon hearing this, responded, "That is a most auspicious matter. It should be done immediately," and subsequently named Mount Tōbu Myōraku-ji, making it a branch temple of Mount Hiei. At that time, the monks of Sanjoji heard of this decision and argued, "Mount Tōbu is the site of the great emperor's memorial, so it should undoubtedly be affiliated with Sanjoji. How could it possibly be associated with Enryaku-ji?" They petitioned the regent, but he, having already made his decree regarding its association with Enryaku-ji, did not reconsider the matter, and thus their request was unfulfilled. This exemplifies the saying, "Regrets of the past cannot stand in the way of the present." The circumstances of today are similar to those of old. Had they approached Sanjoji first, it would have surely become a branch temple of theirs. It would have been more beneficial had they spoken of it after the regent's decree. Thus, as a branch temple of Mount Hiei, Myōraku-ji now flourishes with the teachings of Tendai Buddhism. The legacy of Sonrei is still spoken of as a noble aspiration of that mountain. Thus, the story has been passed down.